You are listening to Detroit Craft Academy, episode number 13.
Detroit Craft Academy. Detroit Crafts with Jody. Detroit Craft Academy.
Hey guys, I'm back. Episode number 13 here. So, they're coming. The episodes are coming. A couple little announcements. So, Hamtramck Labor Day Festival applications are open for any of you artists, vendors, or business folks out there that would like to be a vendor. You can head on over to hamtownfest.com and check out the festival there. It's a fun festival. I've been doing it now for about 5 years, and come and join in the shenanigans. I think you'll have fun. On July 12th, I will be speaking at Tech Shop Detroit at 6:30 about what I do. So if you guys want to see me make a fool of myself on stage for 45 minutes, you can head on up to Tech Shop. That might be some fun things to do. Let's get on with the show. On today's episode, I talk with Avida Johnson. Avida is the maker and creator behind Kaleidoscope, which is a drinking chocolate company here in Detroit. I hope you guys enjoy the show. So Avida, thanks for coming on to the show today.
Yeah, of course.
So Avida, just to get started, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, where did you grow up and where did you go to school?
Yeah. I'm a native-born Detroiter, like actually on my birth certificate it says. And I ended up going to culinary school in upstate New York at the Culinary Institute of America. I got a bachelor's in hospitality management and an associate's in baking and pastry arts. So basically, I was really heavy into arts in high school, and I always liked cooking, but it was kind of something in the background. I was into drawing and poetry and things like that. And I took a home ec class, and I kind of just switched all my energy into that down the line. And I found that food and cooking usually helped me feel a lot calmer. So I remember one time I was really, really mad, and I made some chocolate souffles. And I borrowed the ramekins from the middle school home ec class and rented a book from the library and begged my mom to buy me all the ingredients. And I just remember feeling so much more at peace after I finished it.
Yeah.
And what was really cool about this was that I kind of messed up. I didn't grate all the chocolate small enough. So the souffles kind of came out with a fudgy layer at the bottom and then a cakey layer at the top. And it was still really good.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, this is pretty awesome. I messed up and it still came out really amazing. And it kind of sparked a lot of interest in food to me from there.
Were growing up, was there somebody in your family that influenced you to become a chef?
Well,
Chocolatier, I guess.
Yeah, no. So my grandfather was actually a chef in the Navy, and he had 7 children. My mother was a baby of those 7. So I guess I was always underneath him. He was a really big man, 6'7". He's huge. I don't remember any of this, but this is what my family told me. And my mom really does not like cooking at all. So as I got older, it was okay, well, I'll do this because I don't mind too. And then, me and my father connect on food, and I remember us just sitting and watching the Food Network channel, not really to glean anything, but, that's what we did.
Yeah.
Particularly Jacques Torres, he's a chocolatier that's pretty famous for people who know chocolate. I remember watching him so much when I was little, and I just thought it was so awesome. And I actually don't really remember that being a part of my train of thought going into chocolate, but now that I'm older, I can look back and it was this is kind of supposed to happen, I guess.
Yeah, it's crazy when you can look back and see things that happen in your life and you're like, wait a minute, maybe
maybe it's all on purpose.
Yeah. So you went to school for
baking and pastries.
Did I see somewhere that you studied out of country, or did you?
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So the Culinary Institute of America puts on a career fair every 4 or 3 months, and the group of people I kind of fell in line with, who became my friends, we're just kind of very eclectic group of people from different diversities. And a lot of the friends at the time had been out of the country, and I hadn't. And I remember mentioning that I had taken German in high school for 4 years, and I really had a desire to go out of the country and go to Germany. Just this very weird affinity with the country, even though I'd never been there before. And so at the career fair, there's this program called the CBYX. And it's just an exchange program that both the governments have kind of agreed to pick 75 students every year between the ages of 18 and 25. And they switch countries for a year. And so it's a really intense program. The application process, just to fill out the application online, was 4 hours. And then if you get past that point, it's another 4-hour interview in person. And then after that, they kind of like narrow it down. So I did that process. And I remember thinking like, I'm not going to get this because I was going to culinary school.
Yeah.
They had people from Princeton and Yale and a few other, like Brown studying political science and like computers and all this other stuff. And I was like, this is such a waste of my time. Like, why would they bring me down here? But it ended up being like, out of the interview from New York, it was like 4 people from CIA and then like maybe another 8 from all the other New England states. 3 of us beat all the other kids from like the really big schools.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, they pick you based on like your psychological strength because you have to rely on yourself for a year. Like they treat you as an adult. They like tell you, this is what you have to do. This is where you're going to be living. Okay, see you. Like, have fun. So it was really awesome.
Yeah.
And there I baked at 2 different bake shops. I went to university and then I did an internship at a chocolate fabric factory for about the year span.
So you were there for an entire year. Wow.
I think I turned 21 there. So,
Oh.
Yeah, I was there from 20 and then I came back and turned 22 right when I got back.
Okay, cool. So how do you think like different, like is it different in Germany as far as like what you learned like baking? Do you think like any of the things that you learned over there influenced you?
Well, my main products are like drinking chocolate, and drinking chocolate is a very European thing. I mean, it started way back with like Aztecs and like Middle Central America, but like the Italians do it, the French do it. So that was something, and it was just like a very interesting experience to see how people interact with food differently. So I think the overall experience it definitely shaped how I interact with the world now. It's just difficult. Like culture shock is something that really challenges a lot of things that you've learned as truths. And it makes you think about situations differently for the rest of your life when you've done something like that, just lived in a different place.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. Like any in and out, through and through, any sort of situation, food, people, business, like the way I approach that is significantly different. And I don't know that I would be here if I hadn't gone there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I lived in Italy for a semester when I was like 19 or something like that. It's definitely a culture shock.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I think what's different about the program I went to is, like, sometimes when you go through school, they kind of set you up with where you live in and stuff like that. A few times I had to move by myself. Like, I had to go through classified ads and call people on the phone and try to speak my broken German and understand, like, how's that, if this is going to be a good fit. I had to do that, too. Like, they don't send you over there with a set-up internship. You have to find it yourself within, like, 4 months of being there. And I just had to like ask people for help or like set down, like write scripts out and try to follow them as much as I could to get what I needed to know. So I think that was, and then just talking, like interacting with people was crazy. And just the way people, you know, like the way they handle food, like their pastries over there are not quite as sweet. And they have different ingredients in grocery stores than we have here. It's just like, even their, I'm thinking about the word in German, so I'm trying to figure out what it is in English because I can't remember sometimes. Baking soda. Baking soda there acts differently in baked products than it does here.
Really?
So it's like like baking and cooking is the thing that helps me feel grounded. I felt like just like a blob because I couldn't bake. And I'm like, I know this recipe works. Like, it's just like so hard to.
So did you have to like reteach yourself how to bake while you were over there?
I just had to like do trials and errors. Like, I remember I made these cookies 5 times, and they were staples, and they always came out right here. But when I was there, they never were quite right. And it's not like they know anything about chocolate chip cookies in Europe. That's not even. Or pancakes. They always ask me, how do you get them to be so thick in the pan? I'm like, that's baking powder. They're like, I don't understand. Or I made devil's food cake, and they're like, it's really black. Is it supposed to be like that? I'm like, yeah. Banana bread. Banana bread was the thing. It was always when people were like, that sounds gross. Why would anybody eat that? And then they're like, no, I'm not going to eat that. That looks really gross. Why are the bananas that black? Like, it doesn't make any sense. I'm making it. They're smelling it. And they're like, that actually smells really good. comes out the oven. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I'll try a piece. And I remember one time my host mother, she was like licking the plate with the crumbs after she was like, I don't want to eat any.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Oh
all
my
the time.
gosh.
I made monkey brown once. And one of the people were like, it looks really gross. It looks like a brain, which I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But I remember one person said, if the devil were a dessert, that's what it would be.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
That's a compliment
Yes,
right
it
there.
Yeah.
So, when you came back from, like, you came back recently then, right? Or
I came back, I think, 2013.
okay.
Yeah.
So, how did you start Kaleidoscope then? Like, when did that start? How did you get started with your business?
So that's actually like super recent. It's really only gotten traction in the last few months. So when I got back from Germany, I knew in my mind for some reason I didn't want to come back to Detroit. And so I had to finish up my last semester to finish my bachelor's degree in upstate New York. And I got a job in Brooklyn as a manager. But I never wanted to live in New York, and I knew that. So I only lasted like 6 months there.
Yeah.
And I didn't really like doing the management in that setting. So I started looking for chocolate jobs all over the country. And I called one of my chefs from college, and they said that somebody in Seattle was looking for some help. So I flew out there and kind of got back into chocolate. And Seattle is really cool because they are a really good hub for chocolate. They have like the largest chocolate, not festival, but like just meeting of people who do bean to bar. So chocolate makers, and then actually people who like manipulate the chocolate, which is what I am, a chocolatier. And like they all gather there every year, and I had never seen so many different things. Like there were people from Caribbean islands who were making a juice from the pulp that surrounds the cacao bean when it's fresh out of the pod. Most cacao beans, they're grown in a pod, and like when they break it open, it's like this white pulp. It looks kind of gross, but it tastes pretty good. They made some sort of juice out of that pulp and like made some sort of liquor out of that pulp, and I never even held like a cacao pod in real life before that
Wow.
convention. And so that kind of got me back into like the idea of chocolate. But some things fell apart for me in Seattle, so I moved back here about a year ago. And I would say September, November last year was the first time I thought about doing a business.
Yeah.
My cousin Valorian is, she's part of the Detroit Food Academy or a Fresh Corner Cafe. They're a nonprofit food organization, and she's been trying to get me to come back and start a business for so long, and I just like did not want to do it. And she just forwarded me this link to an entrepreneur accelerator called Tech Town. And I was just like, if I do this, will you leave me alone? That's how it started. And so I applied for it, and it was a free application. And then they told me I made it into the program. I was like, okay, let's do it then.
Now what?
Yeah. So I went through that, and they make you pitch at the end of it, and the top 5 people win like $7,500 in grant money. I ended up winning that. And then like they're kind of connected in the whole world of accelerators in Detroit, and Motor City Match came into like the first meeting for Tech Town, and the guy who runs it just like, you know, it's like just apply. It can't hurt. You can always apply again if you don't get anything. So I won that grant money in November, and then like Christmas Eve, I got an email from Motor City Match saying I had won a space award that came with $4,000 in technical assistance.
Hell yeah.
And then I went to my bank lady, and I was telling her about how I was thinking about starting a business, and she said that I should apply for their soup because most people don't apply for it, and my business plan was really good and that I would probably win. And I was just like, I really hate all these applications. I don't want to do it, but I mean, like, what could it hurt?
Right.
And I won $1,500 from that in January. So total, I won about $13,000 in grant money.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks. I mean, I invested, so I got back and I saved up about $4,000, $6,000 of my own. But then my car got totaled, so there was $2,000 there.
Yep.
And then, like, before I kind of settled on what I was going to do for my business, I was using my own money to kind of test the waters and see what I actually like doing on a regular basis. But the money that I've won, I've been able to invest in, like, the first round of ingredients and equipment, and I use a technical assistant to invest in a graphic designer to do, like, a complete rebranding of labels and stuff like that. And I still have a little bit of money left. So I'm planning on trying to use that money like intelligently to make sure I set myself up for the most success possible. So that's kind of like been since last November that this has kind of been a thing.
Yeah, wow. It's so cool like how new your business is and how much it's grown too.
It's crazy.
like business plan? Like, did you have somebody help you sit down, write a business plan, or you kind of had an idea of what you wanted to do?
So the culinary school actually is pretty. They have a business planning class, and I took that.
Oh, awesome.
So when I was probably 22, 23, I wrote a business plan for a chocolate shop in Ann Arbor. So I kind of just like plugged in the new stuff because I had changed it to wanting to do like a late night patisserie and bar because I didn't find that most of the pastries in Detroit were all that great, which is probably not the nicest thing to say. But then, so that was easy to kind of plug in there. But the more people I talk to, if I'm not looking for funding, I don't necessarily need a business plan. So I actually haven't updated the business plan for what I'm doing now. If I do need funding, I have a general idea of how things are going to go. So I'm just kind of like, keep that in the back of my mind. Once this initial money runs out and we're in need of growth, then, I'll probably sit down and like revamp it to suit where we're going now versus with the late night bar and stuff.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what Kaleidoscope is for anyone that's listening so that they... want to talk a little bit about Kaleidoscope.
So Kaleidoscope is a company that will produce high-quality chocolate goods, and not just truffles, but like the main products that I'm focusing on right now are drinking chocolates and vegan chocolate milks. So drinking chocolates are just a higher quality hot cocoa than we're used to, and most hot cocos have like a lot of chemicals that are associated with bad health. Hydrogenated coconut oil because they've removed the cocoa butter from the chocolate, and just like a lot of chemicals that kind of help it be a thickening agent when you add like hot liquid to it. So I kind of decided to do like drinking chocolate flavors that are familiar to Americans. So there's like a peanut butter flavored one, a chai flavored one, there's a banana flavored one, and that's kind of like the same things. I kind of wanted to do a product that would help us to hopefully fund opening up a physical space.
Yeah.
Rather than having to go and get a lot of loans. If it can help us cut down like 50% of the loans we need to get, then that's really great.
Yeah.
So the intention is to wholesale to grocery stores, like diner settings, cafes, and just trying to elevate what people associate chocolate with. And I have found a vegan chocolate, that's just organic chocolate that uses evaporated cane juice versus sugar. So we can provide chocolate milk and drinking chocolate that is good for vegans as well. And I'm not vegan, but I just am conscious of the things that I put into my body. And I'd like to kind of spread that around too.
I love that you're doing vegan chocolate, like stuff. Well, like first of all, like I don't feel like there's too much of that locally. And like, I just think it's super awesome.
I really sat down and tried to think about things that will be easy to kind of integrate people who don't have a background in food into them. And also just products that might set me apart because there's enough people here doing truffles. And then the few drinking chocolates I have seen are brought in from other states. So I just found like it was an opportunity to kind of get the foot in the door, like, a market share that nobody's really paying attention to. So that down the line, I would love to make truffles and chocolate bars and stuff like that. And those wouldn't necessarily be vegan. Yeah. But, excuse me. And in terms of just a starting point, I just wanted to find something that could set us apart from the other chocolate producers in the city. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's awesome. So what is your favorite thing about working with chocolate?
I am a problem solver. Even I just view things as like, okay, either it's working well or it's not, and there's a solution to be found. And I like challenges. And chocolate was a class that we had to take. It was like cookies and tarts and menu or like a mousse cake class or plated desserts. And when we got through the chocolates class, everybody before us was like, that's the hardest class in the curriculum. Like, it's not going to be easy. You might fail that class. And I just was like, okay, I'm going to be good at that then. That's really what it was. But chocolate is just like, it's like art. It's just a medium. It takes a lot of patience to manipulate it correctly. And I'm not a patient person at all, not naturally. And I've always found space to have, like, to be calm when chocolate is maybe not behaving the way I think it should. It just never really bothered me like it does other people who handle, like
Yeah.
who are bakers or cooks. Like a lot of chefs don't like handling chocolate.
Yeah.
And so I think that just kind of having like a creative background and viewing it as a medium, like if you really understand how chocolate works, and I'm not saying I'm an expert at all, but you can basically create anything out of chocolate that your mind can fathom. Like I did
Yeah.
a chocolate sculpture, and I was using like these silicone noodles and like hand carving and stuff and like just melting things and like trying to glue things back together. And I remember trying to explain like my thought to the team. I was on a team. We were in a plated desserts class, and we had to like compete against all the other teams in the class. It was 3 other people. And I was trying to talk to my other teammates, and they were like, we don't even understand what you're trying to say right now. But nobody else wanted to handle the chocolate. They're like, we're just going to trust you, and hopefully you show and prove when it's time to, come up.
Yeah.
So I made it almost exactly how I tried to explain it to them. And everybody loved it. It was beautiful.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's just kind of like depending on how you want to integrate it. And then it's really cool because it's like coffee in a sense and grapes. Like there's a terroir with where the beans are grown.
Right.
So there's different flavor profiles for single origin chocolate, which is something I learned about in Seattle. And if you eat enough chocolate and know the flavor profiles that go with that, if you want to make a ganache, which is usually what fills truffles, but you want some ingredients to really be highlighted, you can use a proper chocolate to like really, just complement that. So it's really cool in terms of like what you can do in like structures and building, but also like the sorts of morsels you can create for people to, experience. It's not very much that you can make. It's just so many options with chocolate.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
It's just really cool.
It's so cool to like talk to somebody that like has, like, because I'm an illustrator, right? So like I can talk about like a certain type of pen for a long time, but like chocolate is like your art form. So it's like really cool to talk to somebody that's like super excited about that. So how did you come up with the name Kaleidoscope for your company?
Oh, yeah. So I don't know. Anybody who's moved anywhere knows like the first year is a really hard transition. And so last year, actually around this time, I was just having like a very hard time coping with things emotionally. And I was talking to this man. His name is David Marcotte, and he is a clinical psychologist and an ordained Jesuit priest that I met in New York. And he's kind of been something that I can bounce ideas off of because his mind is just so open, you know? Because he does have the psychological background where he can like talk to you about how things work chemistry-wise, but then he can talk about faith as well. And I find that to be very helpful. And I was just like crying about something, which I do a lot. Like whenever I'm really emotionally overwhelmed, I just can't not cry. And he never seems to be overwhelmed by this at all. And I was talking to him and I was complaining about something and about how it just seemed so rigid and I didn't see a light at the tunnel. I just felt like everything was crumbling around me. And what was the purpose of me moving home if I was feeling this way?
Yeah.
And he said to me, Avida, I like to think of life as a kaleidoscope. If you just change the perspective, like, you can change, like twist the kaleidoscope and the view will change. He's like, if you change your perspective, then you'll change what you can see, like the opportunity in front of you. And at that time, I was kind of toying around with the idea of a business name, and I was going to do like Pure Vita, because my name is Avida. But Vita is like the most taken domain name on the internet. So once I kind of gave up on the Vita thing, I was like, well, I'm just going to believe in it, and whenever I hear it, I know it. And as soon as he said that to me, I was like, that's it.
That's so, like, I really like that a lot, actually.
Yeah, and I also wanted something that reflected Detroit to me, because I have lived in a lot of different cities. And the people here are something really, really special to me. And this is, like, somebody told me it was gimmicky, but this is how I feel. I think an old school kaleidoscope was like broken stained glass that people put together. And it came together to make something beautiful. But, like, the pieces are ragged, around the edges. And sometimes I find that Detroiters kind of can be that way, like rough around the edges. I've been told that whenever I move to other cities, like I'm a little abrasive, I'm a little too blunt, I'm like not palatable. I should be this, I should be that. But I find that the roughness around us and our ability to be raw and like vulnerable with each other is something that doesn't occur in a lot of other cities.
Yeah.
And that's one of the main things that attributes to Detroit being beautiful to me. So that's something I don't really tell people too often because people think that it's not like a real thing, but that's like, Kaleidoscope is, I wanted a name for my company to reflect it where I was from and also something that just felt right. And that's, both those things mean something to me.
Yeah, that's awesome. What is your favorite thing about like being an entrepreneur here in Detroit?
Well, I'm always humbled and like still extremely surprised by how much people want to help me. I don't find this work to be hard. You know, people talk to me about easy and hard. That's never been a question to me.
Yeah.
It's more so like, how bad do I want this and what am I willing to sacrifice? And I was willing to sacrifice a lot, like being uncomfortable, being emotionally challenged and things like that. But when I talk to people about what I want to do, they're always like, oh my gosh, please bring it by. We would love to sell you. I'm like, you haven't even tried it yet. Or
Yeah.
people I meet and they already know about my business name, but I'm not being sold in any stores. Like that, I don't even know what to do with that. You know,
Yeah.
like it's just so, just this thing is beautiful to me. And it makes me feel more confident about taking this risk to start a business. It just seems to be such a community here that I didn't anticipate, especially like I was living in New York before. And then in Seattle, they have this thing called the Seattle Freeze, where if you're not from Seattle, it's very, very hard to make like real friendships and real
Yeah.
relationships. And so after living in places like that, which were hard and like forced me to choose between like staying empathetic and emotionally balanced or like emotionally present, or shutting that off and being like, being able to like move forward in my professional life, like there was always a choice there. Whereas here I don't feel like there's a choice. Like I can be my authentic self and make this really good product and be successful in being myself and like
Yeah.
creating from something that's purely my imagination.
Yeah.
And that is always like crazy to me. Because, you know, I have heard stories about other people who've started their businesses and people have told them you shouldn't do it. Most businesses fail. Every time I talk to somebody, they never ever bring that up. And it's just like, okay, well, cool. Like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm just going to run with it and see how far I can go with it. So,
Yeah, that's like one thing I've noticed just like in Detroit too is like everyone is so supportive of one another here. Like if you want to do something, it's like you can do it here.
yeah.
Which is awesome. What are some of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome?
Just persevere. There's been some hiccups, and it's really frustrating for me because I'm not patient. So, like, I decide I want this done by this time, and then it's like 2 months later, and I'm just like, why? You know, just like trusting that's what's like, you know, what's for me is not gonna miss me in like all areas of my life, especially a business.
Yeah.
You know, just being like, okay, well, accepting that it's not my time yet. I need to be a little bit more patient, and it'll probably be more fruitful for me not to just move forward just because. Like,
Yeah.
that's the hardest thing for me in doing this. And also just like I need help, but I don't feel comfortable having people work for me and not paying them. So I just do a lot of stuff by myself until I can, you know, start getting sales and then bringing people in. Like, I've been training a few people here and there who just have interest and want to be a part of it, which also boggles my mind.
Yeah.
In a good way. But it's just like a lot to carry sometimes by myself. And
Yeah.
I find that people my age, but when I first started, I felt very isolated because I didn't know very many people my age who were doing what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
But I've met some new people now who are, and it's a lot more, it's like helpful. I can text them like, how do you make an invoice, you know? And then like, they're 25 or 30 and they're like, oh yeah, I use this. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, thank you. Cause I was really stressing about having to make a table for every little part of this invoice. Or who do you use to do your books, you know? Just stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just being able to reach out, and since I feel like they're my peer and not like a mentor,
Yeah.
I never feel dumb asking a question. So I think that was hard for me, just like talking to people who are kind of just figuring it out as they're going like me versus people who have already had the success of, you know, transitioning and working for themselves and being able to build a life that they want.
Yeah.
It can be a little daunting to try to talk to them about things that they've already
It's really intimidating to approach somebody that has has built a business and like, yeah,
it is.
can totally be. So do you have like a favorite project that you've worked on with like I mean, like I know you have the Kaleidoscope project, but like maybe like any like group projects that you've worked on or like,
You know, actually, no. This is the first time I've ever viewed anything of this magnitude, if you will, as a project.
really?
I was, so I think I was telling you before, there was a woman who has a product line, And I was talking to her about opening up a physical brick and mortar. Like, that was the first thing I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And she was like, why would you paint yourself into a corner? Where if you open up a product line, you have more flexibility down the line. Mm-hmm. She was like, this is a project. As much as you might want to tie your whole identity to it, it is a project, and it will be finite in a way. Like, you will achieve all your goals, you'll grow, and then you'll want to do something different. It's not bad. You can sell your business, you can keep it, you can give it away to somebody else. Like, it depends on what you want, but there'll just be more projects to be had. So I think before it was like, okay, I got to be successful, I got to have a job, I got to earn X amount of money, da-da-da-da-da-da. But now I'm just like, well, this is a project that is really good for me and it's helping me grow. And sometimes projects don't necessarily succeed in a way.
Yeah.
But it is, I feel like I'm within my purpose currently. And so I think that once I get to a point where I can do this full time, I can start to have enough sales to kind of bring more people in. Then I can say, okay, this project can kind of take the back burner. What's the next thing I want to do? So this is like the first thing I've actually viewed as a project versus an identity or life-defining thing, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So, what's like Kaleidoscope is about to basically launch now because you have all the licensing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what are the next few steps? Like, what do you see for the next year for?
I would like to grow sustainably, and as much as I hate it, slowly. I mean, it might not happen that way. A lot of people I've talked to, especially in Detroit, is like, just be ready. Within 6 months, we had to move into a second location, and I hadn't even considered, leaving the first location when I even started this stuff. So I'm trying to think as big as I can, but currently I'm just trying to get sold at a few places, like two new accounts every month, track how quickly they're turning over their inventory from me, so I can start kind of like calculating, developing PARs and systems that can support growth. So like one person can produce X amount of units working not like a slave, you know what I mean? Like,
right, yeah.
Enjoying what they're doing. How many people can we actually support financially at this pay rate? Where can we store our chocolate before we process it? Where are we going to store the actual finished products? Who's going to distribute? Things like that. And there's no way for me to plan that because it hasn't come up yet. So I want to leave enough space in my world to be able to accommodate that and think logically through that when it does arise. So I think that that's something that's really important to me moving forward. And just trying to be ready for holiday season. People already have found me and I don't have any products. So I need to have everything in line basically by the end of August, September.
Yeah.
So that when it starts to get cold again, the drinking chocolate, I know those sales are going to definitely rise. And, maybe the few things I have in the pipeline now are pretty nationally recognized. So I don't know if that's going to jump us up.
Yeah.
In terms of what's necessary for production. I don't know at what point will I have to leave my conventional job and So just trying to be very open-minded to that.
Yeah.
And make sure that this stays something that helps me to feel free. Because if it gets to the point where I'm doing something because I think I should or because of what people expect of me, then it's not really much different from working for somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just trying to stay focused on that. And just make sure we are super committed to quality and excellence. Because I don't want anybody to look at my brand and be like, oh, well, they were really good in the beginning, but...
Yeah, so that's that's a fear.
Yeah, so just staying true to that regardless of cost, as long as we are profitable by a certain percentage, just not to sacrifice that, So that's something that is important to me too.
Yeah. So if you could go back in time and give yourself advice, what advice would you give yourself?
Well, actually, I'm in a place right now in my life. I wish that 10 years ahead of Avida would come back now. Try not to carry everything by yourself. When I left Detroit, I was 17 and I was very particular. I had a 5-year plan. I knew where I was going to be living. And that's just not how you live a life.
Yeah.
And just give myself permission to be a human. Like, I'm really hard on myself, and I think that's why I accomplish a lot, but that translates into, like, it can be a negative thing sometimes emotionally.
I feel you on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, and right now I'm learning how to not be like that. I mean, like, when I moved back, I was having issues with blood sugar, and I thought I might be diabetic. It turns out I'm hypoglycemic, but basically my body just doesn't process sugars well. When I was living in all these other cities by myself, I was working 2 jobs. I was pulling 14-hour days. Like, it wasn't. I was just going to do it.
Yeah.
I tried doing that when I got diagnosed with all this stuff. I just can't. Like, I
Yeah.
have to sleep. I have to stop. And I thought that went against what an entrepreneur was. But you can't even make logical decisions when you're exhausted.
Yeah.
And I literally, physically feel sick when I'm tired.
Yeah.
Like, I feel exhausted through and through. And I have to just be like, it's okay, Avida, if you don't do this thing today.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you any less, like, successful or productive. It doesn't take away what you have accomplished, and just, like, learning to celebrate what I have done. Those are the things I wish that I had done more. Just giving myself permission to be a person versus, like, I'm not Kaleidoscope. That's a business. It
Yeah.
could fail. It could need a logo rebranding. I'm Avida, and they are 2 separate entities, and Kaleidoscope is going to afford Avida the opportunity to build a life that she wants.
Yeah.
And I just want to, like, I struggle with that a lot, but just trying to make sure that that's what I fall on when I'm feeling down or, like, beating myself up for
Yeah.
not doing X, Y,
That's
and Z.
a really good perspective to have. Like, the first 5 years that I, like, ran my business, like, I worked and worked and worked and worked, and I hit, like, year 6, like 2 years ago, and I literally, like, realized I, like, completely stopped taking care of myself, and I got so sick for, like, 9 months.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm just now like, oh, yeah, self-care. It's something that you need to do. You need to take care of yourself.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is. It's like, you know, life will put you in situations to teach you the lessons that you otherwise would just ignore. I also struggle with depression.
Yeah.
And I have been ignoring the self-care and then wondering why I'm having these emotional outbursts and it's leaking into my relationships that I care about here.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Just not gonna do it anymore. Like, I'm tired of the up and down because I'm not taking the time to make myself a priority. So I'm just, like, committing to things that kind of help me stay present and mindful, because that's kind of how you move outside of, like, the depression. And, like, that's how I move outside of my depression. Like,
Yeah.
just being, like, kind to myself helps so much to stop the negative thought spirals that happen.
Yep.
So those are things that, like, the hypoglycemia and then, like, the depression. Those are 2 things that I can't afford to ignore. So it kind of makes me begin the business with that mindset.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I forgot, maybe I, like, read this somewhere or heard it somewhere, but I remember a conversation, something along the lines of, like, you know, your body is like your vessel that, like, you have to take care of your vessel, right? If you don't take care of your vessel, it's like if your car breaks down, you, like, you know, like, take care of yourself. Just
That's something I actually, like, I had this friend, her name is Karen, and she was talking to me about, like, how depression it's like winter, you know? It's like your body's signaling to you, you need to come inward and heal some things, like, rejuvenate some things. And when she said that to me, I was like, it kind of made me switch how I viewed it. It was like, okay, I've been tasked to take care of this body. It happens to not handle sugar well.
Yeah.
So I eat well and I exercise. It happens to have, like, a serotonin and endorphin, like, imbalance. I'm about to start taking supplements for that. You know, it's like, it's not a thing to be ashamed of. It's just like, you know, somebody had a thyroid issue and they take pain medicine for that. They don't feel shame about that.
Yeah.
So just kind of viewing it as a machine and, like, you know, actually, obviously, I'm pretty spiritual, so it's not like it's just, okay, I'm going to put this energy into this food, and I'm going to do these things because it maintains it so I can be, like, the most maximum output.
Yeah.
It's like, I just want to be happy.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, I honestly feel like, you know, like, I don't, like, everyone has, like, this, like, perfect idea of, like, what they should be like, and they should be, like, this perfect person that, like, doesn't need to take medication and da-da-da-da-da. Like, if you're depressed and you find a pill that, like, makes you, like, not depressed, there is no shame in like doing that. When I'm tired, I drink a cup of coffee. I don't have any shame in that. You know, like if you can find something to help you, do it. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's something I think that I would like to have like started to internalize a little bit earlier. That would be a lot.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Let's see. Do you have any advice for anyone just starting off?
Take the time to think through things. I got to go to a seminar for visioning, and it suggests that any goal or plan that you have, set it out 5 or 10 years, like where you think it will be in 5 to 10 years, because it's just far away enough for you to not be able to say, okay, that's not possible. And you sit down and you think about a day in the life of if these dreams had come true. You know, what does it feel like? What's the, like, let's say a Wednesday in June, it's sunny. I can feel the sun on my skin. I woke up at blah, blah, blah time. And you sit down and you actually like think through your dreams and like intentionally let your heart talk to you, you know? That way you can kind of find your own path. And I also find that when you vision and you like sit with yourself in the stillness and that is really uncomfortable, you can kind of like get in tune with this energy that's kind of going through, like that is there, but you never really acknowledge. And then when that thing that you wanted comes, you feel it. It's not like, I don't know if this is right or wrong. It's like, this feels familiar to me.
Yeah.
That's how I make a lot of my decisions and like choose to move forward. I mean, and then once you kind of put that vibe out to the universe, it'll bring it to you. Like it might not be in your time schedule, but that's what's happened for me. I found like a lot of people and my team, personal and professionally, is like slowly growing.
Yeah.
And it's not of any like physical, like serious direct in like work on my end. It's just like I found exactly when I needed a teacher, they came around, or when I was ready to receive a lesson, that person came into my life. So I mean, that's not really like a direct get a pen and paper and write it down, but just don't put yourself into a box.
Yeah.
Be very fluid with what you want, like how you're going to get there, and also give it the space to evolve. Like treat like a child, you know, like care for it, nurture it, love it. Be grateful you've been tasked to care for this thing, embrace it and make it into something, but also give it the freedom to like move around and feel and like let it go. Like just be, I don't even know. Like that's, just let it be a thing that will grow. And if you're open to that, it'll be better and bigger than you could even possibly imagine it to be.
That's good advice. That's solid.
For real. Yeah, because I'm always surprised and humbled. Just because I just decided to talk to people. That's the main thing. Tell anybody and everybody who will listen to you what you're doing. All the opportunities I've come across just because I had the balls to be like, when somebody asks me what am I doing here, I tell them, oh, I'm actually trying to start a business. Oh, really? Why? And then you tell them all about that, and the real people who are meant to be in your life will just like connect to that and like do whatever they can to help you. So like, listen or talk to people.
Yeah. Like letting people know what you want to do is like huge. Like, yeah, it's some people are just like really shy about that too. Especially like I do a lot of stuff in like craft fairs and stuff, and they'll be like, "Oh, I'm an artist." Like, you are also a business person. Stand up and say that.
Yeah, those would be the main things I think that have helped me the most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. So, if people want to get a hold of you, how can they get in touch with you?
My email address for the business is Avida at KaleidoscopeDetroit.com. Kaleidoscope is spelled KALEIDOSCOPE. And then Detroit, if you don't know how to spell that, then I'm ashamed of you. So that's a good way. There's a Facebook page too. It's just facebook.com/Kaleidoscope Detroit. And then the Instagram page is Kaleidoscope Detroit. I haven't really been posting much on a Kaleidoscope, like the Instagram page or Facebook for the past month, just because I wanted to focus on the rebranding and getting that together. But once we start moving product, which is going to be in June, I'm going to reactivate that and just like start keeping people abreast of things that have been happening. So,
Cool. Favorite album that you're listening to right now?
Ooh. You know, actually, I was talking to my cousin about this yesterday. I'm trying to think. So Kendrick Lamar just dropped the album recently. And I'm not really a fan of rap anymore because it's just like all the trap music, and it's just like not my boat house or my wheelhouse. But Kendrick Lamar's album has been like so good for me. It's just like a lot of content in the world is made for like white males, and then after that, it's just white people in general. I'm Black, by the way, and it's just nice to have content that's made for me or people who look like me. So that album is the most recently like new album I'm listening to, but I love J. Cole. I think J. Cole is my favorite rapper overall. He made a song about folding clothes for his wife, and it was like the most romantic, but still like thugging. Cause I like to think I'm a thug too. So, I'm like, how you got me feeling emotional with you rapping about folding clothes for your wife? Like, I want somebody to fold clothes for me. Just like, so I love J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar right now. I'm pretty all over the place though. Like, I listen to the Civil Wars and like Odessa, and just like it's really no compartment. But currently, I've been listening to the new Kendrick Lamar album like on repeat. So.
Awesome. And then, do you have a favorite book that you're reading right now?
Actually,
if you have time.
I love to read. I love to read. I actually had decided that. Well, speaking about depression, so I read, like, there's two sections of how I read for leisure or, like, self-improvement. And that's even, like, in the business world. So, like, when I decided I wanted to start a business, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The One Thing, a book called Drive about motivation and how you can motivate your employees using autonomy and just, like, trust. And then there's books about, like, I'm reading a book called The Mood Cure. My friend Emily recommended me that. I just did not want to jump to a prescription in terms of like helping the depression and like the anxiety.
Yep.
So the Mood Cure is actually really cool. It talks to you, like there's a questionnaire that asks you like, how do you feel when you feel X? And it kind of like recommended serotonin and endorphin supplements with amino acids to kind of help your body absorb them better. So I just started that yesterday. But I do like The Alchemist. That's just for pure leisure. I read it before. One of my tattoos is a quote from there. And I intend to read it like once a year. And it's really helpful.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put like some of the books that you mentioned in the show notes with like the album and stuff that you put too.
Yeah,
so
that sounds awesome.
that way, like, I don't know, like I love asking people what they're reading and like what they're listening to because like everyone's into like so many different things. I'm like, I just want to know it all.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. So thanks for coming on the podcast.
Oh yeah, thanks for asking me.
Yeah, this was awesome. And that concludes episode number 13. If you'd like to find out more about Avida, head on over to DetroitCraftAcademy.com where you can find links to her pages and links to check out her business Kaleidoscope. I hope that you guys enjoyed the show. If you are feeling like it, head on over to iTunes and give it a review. More reviews, more listeners, and then, I can put these things out more often too. Anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed the show, and until next time, keep crafting your dreams.